It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from Dundee. It's by Holy Goat Brewing, and this is a can of their export stout. This beer is from a recipe from 1897. It's a 440 milliliter can. It's 7.5% ABV. I picked it up in Brewdog in Cardiff. Some of you might remember my craft beers in Cardiff video that I made about a month or so ago. That would have been maybe end of May 2022. Well, anyway, I went to Brewdog. I picked up a couple of cans, this being one. So the price, because I bought it in a bar, is of course slightly inflated. I think I paid about £5 for this can. For the 7.5% ABV beer, that's not bad. So without further ado then, let's get it out into a glass and see what we get. Little kind of pop as I open that can, a little kind of, oh, look at this. Look at that. Oh, you know, if ever you want to find a clue as to what the owners of Brewdog are drinking these days, then have a look at their beer fridge. Have a look at some of the slightly quirky beers that they've got in their beer fridge. And they're probably the beers that the owners of Brewdog are drinking. The original owners of Brewdog, James Watt, Martin Dickey. This is what they're probably drinking. This looks tremendous. Great body, great head retention, lovely levels of carbonation, jet black beer in the glass. So when I picked this up to buy this, actually I didn't even pick it up to buy it. I've got a friend in Brewdog Cardiff who he just picked this out from the fridge and said, "You're gonna love that." The brewery, you know, they're a smallish brewery. They're trying to make a name for themselves, but this stout is terrific. You're gonna love it. And I went, okay, I trust you. I'm gonna buy this. And this is the trust, isn't it? This is the benefit of having somebody in a bar who really knows their beer and gets to try so many different beers from all over the place, and he goes, buy that one. Let's get the aroma. It looks terrific. Oh, just typical export stout. Roasty, toasty, loads of roasted malt coming through, chocolate, coffee, caramel. The hops on the back end are giving flavours of plum and fig and prune. It's just a really solid, so far, without tasting it, export stout. Let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. Absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. It's so hoppy on the back end. On the back end, it's dominated by plum and fig and prune hop flavour. So it's probably New World hops that this Dundee brewery, Holy Goat Brewing, have used. But because it's clashed, and I use the word clash because it's the best way to use it. If you used these same hops, these same American hops, in a golden ale, in a light straw coloured ale, then you're going to get flavours of passion fruit and mango and grapefruit, orange peel and fleshy blood orange. Because the malt has been roasted And because the malt's giving off flavours of chocolate, coffee, caramel, the malt is then bitter. It changes the profile, not the profile, it changes the flavour of the hop. Instead of getting passion fruit, grapefruit, mango, plum, orange peel, you're getting plum, fig, prune. It's almost as if we've moved away from tropical hops to more something that goes in a Christmas cake or one of your mother's pies or your grandmother's plum pies or something like that. But that's okay. That's okay. It's supposed to be like that. It's creamy. It's rich. Lovely levels of carbonation, pushes the beer on the inside of the mouth. It's chocolatey, it's bitter dark chocolate coming through. Some little bit of sweet caramel. Some coffee flavours. And then, yeah, plum, fig, prune. And then some bitterness on the back end. Every time I sip this beer, I'm getting a slightly different taste. I'm getting a slightly different kind of... It's the same things. Chocolate, coffee, caramel, plum, fig, prune. But in different orders. The first taste was, I was picking up the hops first. The second taste, I was picking up the roasted malt first. Now it's a combination of the two. I love beers like this because they're so complex. They're so complex that you really have to switch your brain on to drink these beers to be able to really pull all of the flavours out of the beer. But it's the body. It's the body. It's the velvetiness, the creaminess, the richness of the body. I wouldn't be surprised if the brewer used oats to brew this beer. It's a terrific one. It really is. Wow. Let's, do you know, sometimes with these breweries, let's get the can up. Sometimes with these breweries, they don't really write too much. And in fact, Holy Goat Brewing Company, they're doing all of their talking on the front of the can here. All it says on the back is contains barley and hops, stored in a cool, dark place, where this brewed. The artwork's by James Scannon. Holy Goat beer, 440ml can, 7.5% ABV, 3.3 units. It's great stuff. And again, it goes back to James Martin Dickey, both being Scottish. Brewery from Dundee. I bet they've scouted about a little bit. Maybe they've opened up a Brewdog bar in Dundee. While they were there, they visited a local brewery or maybe a local craft beer bar. They tried some of the beers. They loved this one probably, this export stout. And they went, right, we're going to put this in our kind of Brewdog bars throughout the UK. Maybe even, well, let's just start with the UK. And for me, that shows, that gives off a big sign for me. That gives off a big plus, a big positive that these guys are still interested in beer. However many equity for punks they've sold to, however many bars they've got. I just read this morning that they're opening up like a 2-story bar in London. You know, terrific, absolutely wonderful. Well done to the guys, fantastic. But what impresses me the most is that you see some of these beers, some of these quirky beers in the beer fridges, and you just know that the guys that own Brewdog have tried these beers and they've gone, let's put these beers in our beer fridges. And the reason why I say that is because in Brewdog, there used to be a case that you went into a Brewdog bar and they had a lot of guest beers on. And it was terrific guest breweries and terrific guest beers that, you know, again, that James Watt and Martin Dickey liked. They liked these breweries, they liked their beers, they're in the Brewdog bars. Now Brewdog have become slightly more commercial, slightly more kind of, we need to talk about Brewdog a little bit more, maybe to satisfy their investors. You don't see that so much anymore. You go in a Brewdog bar these days, you see quite a lot of the Brewdog beers these days. It's more Brewdog beers than guest beers. But the beer fridges are the last hold, if you like, the last hold that I'd say James Watt and Martin Dickey have on their bars. And it's probably because the investors have not noticed yet. They've not noticed that there's some really quirky things going on in the beer fridge. Because the problem is with investors and people who are really in charge of Brewdog is once they see that, they'll switch it off, you know. I hope it lasts a long time. I hope we see great beers like this in the Brewdog fridges. I wouldn't be drinking this beer now if it wasn't for me visiting my local Cardiff Brewdog bar 7 miles away, speaking to a mate I know in there and picking up this beer. And essentially that's what beer is all about, isn't it? It's all about trying something new, trying something interesting. And it's the reason why you're watching today. It's the reason why I'm standing here reviewing it. Is because that's what beer is all about. It's all about sharing. It's all about promoting good beer, and that's what we're all here to do. So I'm gonna rate this. I'm gonna rate this export stout. It's probably from a recipe from 1897. So that's got to be a good. So my house was only 10 years old when they founded this recipe. So this house is 10 years older than this recipe. This house was built in 1887. The recipe for this beer is 1897. Rating for this beer then. Looks good, looks great, smells great, tastes great. Gonna rate that. I've not heard of Holy Goat Brewing Company before. The beauty is that I have now, and it's from someone else's love of this beer, someone else's love of this craft beer, that I got the chance to try this beer. Long may that continue. I like this beer enough to give it a Stone the Crows 10 out of 10. It's a terrific example of an export stout. 10 out of 10. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.